Hello, Scott. It's a pleasure to have you today on our podcast, Master AI Disruption. Let's give a warm round of applause to Scott Harris, the CEO and founder of Napaicc in St. Petersburg and Tampa area in Florida. Scott is the founder of Napaicc and has another partner working with him in the firm, and he will tell us all about his story of origin. How did you get here, Scott?
Oh, my story of origin is very long, so I'll try to keep it short as possible. But I was a general contractor for many, many years. That was my first career path, and that transitioned through an experience I had with Hurricane Charlie back in 2004. I think you and I would briefly talked about this before, and I had a terrible insurance experience. I was a young homeowner, a young father. I didn't know anything about insurance. It was my very first home, and within a couple of years, Hurricane Charlie rolls through and crushes my roof, blows out my garage doors, does incredible amount of damage. And I had just absolutely the worst experience with my insurance company. We did not get the indemnification we needed. I ended up having to put hundreds of hours of personal labor to restore the house. And I really sat back and thought about this. And I said, I cannot be the only one going through this. And realizing that I'm probably not the only one going through this, I'm wondering who can help people like me. And it didn't seem like there was an avenue for anybody to help me. So we got through it. And I decided from that point to do the very best I could to understand the insurance processes and why these type of mistakes happened and what I could do to help the industry overall. That was the initial thought. The translation was I ended up becoming a general contractor for the insurance companies, repairing their roofs, repairing their restoration projects, and repairing their claims that they had on their books. Eventually, I got hired by one of the large Florida-based national carriers, and I worked there all the way until they ended up closing the doors. And then at that point, I approached Jay, and we had a long, deep conversation about the industry, and I thought it would be a good idea to be an advocate and take all of my years of experience and knowledge and bring it to the table on behalf of the policy, on behalf of the insured, and collaboratively work with the insurance companies. We work together on everything, and that is so important. So that's my origin story right there.
Wonderful. So today you have a public adjustment firm in Florida. So tell us a little bit about the firm. Which state are you in? What kind of clients do you take on? How many clients do you have? How many years in the business? Situate the business for us, please.
So I think this is our fifth year going into Napaicc. So this is our fifth year in business as a public adjustment firm. We have all kinds of clients. We cover the entire state of Florida. We have worked outside of Florida on multiple occasions. We did tornadoes in Iowa, and we did some work over in Mississippi a couple of years back. But the heart of our company, and the main focus of our business is the state of Florida. That's where we're based. That's where we're rooted. And we don't have a normal clientele revolving list like a lot of retail stores might have, or a lot of retail companies might have, or even like a lot of insurance carriers might have, where you renew those policies every single
Yeah.
year. Generally speaking, and we really hope that when a homeowner comes into a conflict or feels tension or pressure with a carrier, that we are their last resort and that we will never see them again. I
Mhm.
mean, we don't want anybody to file another claim after they've had to file a claim to begin with. It hurts their claim history. It hurts their future premiums. So we don't have a revolving door on that. What we have is a market need and a market demand, and that is created by the market. And what I mean by that is that when we have such a large market like insurance in general, and in my case, it's property insurance, you have mistakes that get made. And we have over 20, 30 big companies in Florida. A few years ago, half of them pulled out. Citizens got exponentially too large. They have sold off policies and incentivized other carriers to come back into the state of Florida so that they can, give relief on premiums to all the Florida residents. And that tension between the systems, the hurricanes, the daily claims, the lack of insureds, the overwhelming demand for a system like Citizens to have, it's a lot. And when that tension occurs, it results in a need for people like me to come in and smooth out that tension, remove that friction, identify the problem areas of the claim, and work with the carrier to come up with the best absolute outcome for everybody. And that has always been our goal.
Wonderful. Okay. So Tell us what you see, the kind of trends that you see right now in the adjustment industry.
I am so excited, Francis, about the trends that we are seeing. This is so different from any other year that I have been in this industry, and it really does have to do with artificial intelligence. I think that artificial intelligence is a game changer on so many levels, and it also is going to probably have its bumps in the road where it's going to hurt certain industries for a short period of time until they can kind of understand how to best use AI. We're trying to do that right now. We're still trying to figure that out because we do recognize that it's not going away and that it is going to be the future of everything,
Mm,
everywhere
mm,
moving forward. I,
mm.
I I don't even want to put a timeline. I don't even want to say, oh, it's going to be the future over the next 5 years. No, this is here to stay. It's like when they built the engine, Henry Ford built the engine, and it wasn't like cars were going to go away at that point. Horse and buggy went away. So people who have filing cabinets and use a lot of paperwork and go with these old methods of organization, they're going to fall behind because artificial intelligence is helping companies, adjusters, carriers,
Yeah.
public adjusters. It's helping them identify how to organize their files better, identifies pain points quicker. It helps identify errors and areas of where the friction actually exists between the carrier and the policyholder. So all these little tools actually speed up the adjuster's job and workflow and ability to actually come to a good coverage determination, provide a good estimate. And because AI is in estimating now, it's in softwares, it's being integrated into everything. So it's very exciting. I'm actually really thrilled to be alive and well and part of this entire new exploration into our future.
So one quick question, and I'll go to my other big question. So quick question first: do you have employees? Do they work with AI as well?
Yeah, so we have employees, and they're not all working with AI because AI still is a very delicate system. You've heard about AI having hallucinations. And for me, I don't want artificial intelligence to replace good human judgment in my company.
Mhm.
It's a tool.
Yeah,
It needs to be looked at, in my opinion, like a tool,
yeah,
and it needs to be used as a tool. So when I was a carpenter and I wanted to cut a piece of plywood, you could cut it with multiple different tools, right? You could cut it with a sawzall or a skill saw. One of those was going to cut it much straighter, much more true, and give you a much more accurate
yeah,
depiction of what you were looking to achieve, right? The
yeah,
outcome.
yeah.
Okay. So again, we are going to allow our employees to start using it, but only after we've developed certain models where we can have them interact with those models and feel confident that they're not going to get really bad information. You know what I mean? Because honestly, let me give you an example. A few months back, it happened to me. A few months back, I was working on a claim. I'm not going to mention the carrier names or any specifics on the claim, but I was reviewing this claim. It was an old claim and it was a late reported claim, but it was still a legitimate claim and it needed to be filed under the carrier.
Mm,
So when I'm reading the reports that the homeowner provided for me, I didn't notice that the report origin date preceded what I thought would be the most probable date of loss. And that most probable date of loss was based on weather reports, based on investigation, and
yeah.
based on a lot of factors. AI wanted to run with it. Allow me to produce a document with an improper data loss on it. That creates a lot of problems. That one little error creates so much difficulty moving that claim forward on everybody's behalf. So, for that reason, we are just right now fundamentally trying to develop our software systems, develop our AI agent, develop our assistant tools, and make sure that we can test them thoroughly, that they're going to be 99% reliable on accuracy, in that when my staff does feel like there's a hallucination or bad advice or a bad recommendation, they
Mhm.
will always call me and
Sure.
have a good roundtable conversation, because I find that there's nothing that beats a good roundtable conversation when I can bring my staff in and when we can sit around and we can really discuss the intricacies of the claim itself and the complexities of the claim itself. We come up with great solutions, and solutions that are favorable for the carrier and the insured. And that's really important, to have that relationship be
Mhm.
favorable and have favorable outcomes for everybody.
And one question for you: how many, when you say the staff, how many people are on the team today?
Yeah, so on the team today, we have 4 people. So
Okay.
we're still very small.
Uh-huh. Plus UNJ or including UNJ?
No, including me and Jay, yep.
Okay,
So we
total.
have
Okay.
yeah.
So
And
plus two.
and honestly, we don't need to expand with a large sales force. I've seen this model in Florida with other public adjustment firms, and I just don't like it because what ends up happening is these firms grow really fast because they are soliciting contracts more than they are trying to adjust a claim. And that is extremely counterproductive to everything that we do. So I rather grow slowly, train people well so that they know how to adjust a claim, which is the
Mm,
most important thing to do.
yeah, yeah,
They know why the claim is adjusted that way, and
sure.
they know how to defend the adjustment that they're making, right? So that's the third thing in an adjustment. If you can't defend the adjustment that you're making, you probably shouldn't make that coverage decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then, thank you very much, Scott, for this. So then the next level, you were telling me that actually you really work on referrals, and the market seems to be increasing. More referrals than before. So, what is your next level? What does it look like, and what is it that you need to change, or what are the levers that you want to activate? Yeah, tell us more. Yeah.
So many levers I want to activate, but we have to build those levers too.
Okay.
So, we have dedicated primarily our focus on proving our specific model to the industry in the state of Florida. And we've done that. We have a very stable business model in Florida. We have a great reputation, which I'm so grateful for. Even inside the carrier, I believe I have a really good reputation for honesty and for integrity and for trying to uphold the claims. So our next focus is going to be multi-state for sure.
Yeah.
We're looking at Tennessee right now to open up another office. We're talking with someone up there that I've known for years. Again, trust. That trust factor has to be there. The competency factor has to be there. And then we're looking to move to Colorado and California as we branch out. And we're looking to do that over the next 3 years.
Mm, okay.
And ultimately, Hawaii would be in my focus someday. It just says it's such a dream to go work in Hawaii, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to work in Hawaii if they could? I mean, honestly, right? But right now, primarily, Napaicc is 100% my dedicated focus, expanding this company into a multi-state. So Napaicc is named North American Public Insurance Claims Consultants, and it's a mouthful. So that's why we shortened it down. But North America is North America. And
Yeah.
we really did have the vision of expanding throughout North America first.
Mhm.
But again, we had to prove that this would work. We had to go through a lot of pains, a lot of successes, and we've successfully navigated those areas, those issues, and we still have a fantastic vision as far as I'm concerned.
Wonderful, wonderful. So then let's talk about the other side, the thing that makes us grow, the things that make us grow. So obstacles. So what do you see as obstacles on the roadmap to that next level of your company, expanding
So
from.
that's where AI just comes back into so much excitement for me because, prior to artificial intelligence really starting to take off the last 2 years,
Mhm.
and my business partner is younger than me. He's at 40 years old. I'm 58. To just get, I don't mean to date myself, but there are some existential experience difference, right? So
Sure.
I've lived certain lives that he hasn't lived yet, right? So he's so optimistic about it. When in 2022 he's like, we got to get on AI. We got to do AI. It's not there yet. 2025, we got to get on AI. It's not there yet. Finally, I looked at it and I said, I think it's actually there yet. And it is. And it's fantastic. So the biggest obstacle I see is going to be competency. Absolutely.
What
And the
is going to
big
be what?
competency
I'll see. Mhm.
competency. So it's so important in this field to, especially on the public adjuster side, to have a really good, well balanced knowledge of policy, code, building code, and the statutes that govern public adjusters. Those three areas are vital to become a great or good, competent public adjuster.
Mm.
And that's hard because you can hire somebody that can learn policy, but
Mhm.
they may not have the understanding of construction,
Yeah, building. Yeah, yeah, sure.
right? And building construction could be their weakness. You could hire someone that has wonderful experience in construction,
Mm.
but they're
And
going to not be able to understand the nuances, the complexities, the intricacies of an insurance policy.
Yeah.
So competency on my side of the table is really important. And the reason why I was able to realize that should be a focus for any public adjuster
Mhm.
is because I worked for the carrier
Mm,
and the carrier spends a lot of money on education. I
mm,
think during my education period, I was in a class of 30, roughly, don't hold me to it, but I think they spent close to $40,000 just for me alone to
um,
train me before I would even walk into the office, sit at a
mm,
desk, get my
mm,
very first claim. And we had 30 people in the class.
mm.
So they invest a lot of money into education, training, competency, because they understand that bad decisions cost a lot of money one bad decision in insurance can compound over and over and over again if nobody's picking it up.
Yeah.
Right? So competency is so important. And how do I overcome that? Because
Yep.
I've seen a lot of public adjustment firms, they struggle with this core issue. They think, well, if I go to Walmart and offer someone a whole bunch of money to leave their job,
Yep.
they're going to be a great fit and I can just make them into whatever I want to. And they end up just selling a lot of contracts, making a lot of promises, setting a lot of bad expectations
Mm,
and really create a lot of frustrations and frictions within their own network, right?
mhm.
So AI gives me a lot of hope because going back to the earlier conversation, we're able to start developing system prompts and very specific system prompts that we can now put together and start to have AI work in a very specific direction that will be an assistant to our employees. But make no mistake, no adjuster anywhere should ever try to adjust a claim using AI alone. It's actually against the law in the state of Florida, or it will be, because they're legislating against that right now.
Okay, wonderful. So then, okay, so what would be, I'm giving you a magic wand.
Mhm.
What would be your priority? What is within your circle of influence? Okay, so you can't change governors, and you can't change, and so on and so forth. Within your circle of influence, what is it that you would change immediately from an operational standpoint? And well, I guess mostly an operational standpoint, but maybe in terms of a growth standpoint, as well.
Yep. I want to go outside of both those parameters if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
The one thing, if I had a magic wand and I could wave my magic wand and rub that genie bottle and make a wish, the one thing in this industry that I would like to have happen is that the state of Florida be the first state to pass a law that says all insurance adjusters must have their fiduciary obligation to the policy, not to the carrier, not to the homeowner, but to the actual policy. If we could accomplish that, then I think that the direction of my business would change dramatically. The direction of claims in general would change dramatically. And I think the outcomes would be so much better on
Mm,
all sides of the table.
mm,
And I really enjoy in my job. I really enjoy in my job understanding and working with somebody on the other side to come to a better understanding of what the policy's intent actually was and how it should be applied to this particular set of circumstances. I
mm,
enjoy that so much. And the frustration comes when you have to deal with silly things that are not defensible, things that come across your table that you look at and they're just absolute nonsense. They're not defensible and they don't want to change direction. And then you dug in the mud, heels dug in, everybody's dug in. And that's just such a hard place to be all the time. So if my magic wand could wave and the state of Florida said all insurance adjusters are the same and they should do the same job, and that job is specifically the policy to adjust the claim according to the policy. That would be a huge game changer, not only for Florida, but I think it would spread nationwide and it would be an insurance game changer.
So, question for you: is it within your circle of influence?
Possibly.
Okay, so let's narrow the circle of
I'm working on expanding my circle of influence, but I work with a lot of attorney groups. I work with a lot of attorneys in Florida. I'm working with a few representatives in Florida as well.
influence.
And I've supported certain representatives in Florida who are advocates for policyholders in the past. So that is my small circle of influence.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to grow that circle of influence in a very positive and healthy direction. And I think we are. I think we are.
Okay, okay. So, what would be another thing that you would change, like operationally in the organization, for instance, or from the business development, like more states? What is it that you would do with your magic wand?
My last thing that I would do with my magic wand, and only after I achieve the early objectives of having a multi-state presence and feeling good about the company's direction personally, and this is a personal magic wand, I would love to do international adjusting. There's need for it in different countries. And I absolutely think that the way attorneys and CEOs and power groups like insurance companies, they write these policies so magnificently. They really do. I mean, the thought process that goes into it, if you really looked at it, is absolutely outstanding. It's amazing. And the evolution of a policy
Yeah.
is as equally amazing. Originally 200 years ago, I think insurance kind of started when the fire in Britain occurred back in the 1800s, and it spread through London, I believe, if my historic memory serves me right. And there was great losses in businesses. I think it actually started in a bread store, and they were making bread early in the morning, and it caught fire, and half of London burned down.
Wow.
And they started thinking to themselves, we need to have some sort of insurance to cover
Mhm.
these type of large losses.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson jumped into insurance a little bit. So if you go back to the first original claim, it was based on fire.
Yeah.
It was really based on just a fire claim. And then it expanded out over 200 years. And now we have these complex 200 long page documents that have every scenario that you can possibly imagine covered within it. It's amazing. It really is.
So
So I'm
growth.
really interested to
Yes.
see how Europeans do it. I'm really interested to see how Australians do it. I would
Mhm.
love to see how insurance is being worked in high risk areas, like look at Israel, right?
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, if you I've never been, but I can only imagine. I'm just using that as a hypothetical, just pulling it out of my hat. But I mean, how does insurance work in Israel? That risk is so high over there, right? Just
Oh,
because you
sure.
never know when
Yeah.
something could happen. So
For sure.
that kind of stuff is really fascinating for me. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy talking about it. I'm sort of a insurance geek at this point.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
put you in contact with two people, yeah, as we discussed for Hawaii and for international. Yeah, 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 sure. It will be a pleasure. Well, listen, Scott, thank you so very much for all the insights that you shared. I can't wait to see the progress and the evolution. Can't wait to hear more about AI at APAC, and maybe I'll see you in France. Although I'm in LA.
So to give you a little sneak preview, what we want to do is we want to create an interactive AI agent model that
Yeah,
initially can answer a lot of the basic homeowner
yeah,
questions that
yeah.
they have as they struggle through a claim. It's not. It's actually a tool to assist people. So
Yeah.
when we get there, I'll circle back around to you, and I'll let you know what it looks like. It'll
Okay.
be very exciting. Also, Francis, if it's okay, and obviously I know you're recording, but you don't have to put this on. But I would love maybe sometime to have an interview with you. I find you to be extremely fascinating, and I have a lot of questions that I would love to ask you, but only on a different platform if that's possible. So maybe we can entertain that in the future.
Which platform is it? Which platform? Do you have a podcast yourself, or what does it
Yeah,
call?
so we started an educational podcast called the Napaicc Insider. It's
Mhm.
on YouTube, and it stemmed off of our Napaicc Insider newsletter that's on LinkedIn, which is also a very educational newsletter. I'll tell you, a lot of managers, a lot of insurance agents, a lot of insurance adjusters, they all subscribe to it, and they have stayed subscribed to it, which tells me that the information must be good. So we do have those two platforms, and we are slowly growing the YouTube podcast. But really, the purpose of the podcast is for education to the consumer. But I do think that you are a fascinating person, and I would love to interview you in return someday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, we can plan that. Yes, 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 sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, or even the thought, Scott. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. That's exactly it. All right. Cool.
Very good. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, Francis. It was
And you
great
too.
meeting with you, and thank you for this experience.
And likewise. Absolutely. A wonderful person. Thank you, Scott. Yes.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye. Bye.